Good morning, Father and sisters. I am happy and privileged to introduce Father Binu, MSFS from Bangalore. Father Binu Edathum Parambil is a member of the missionaries of St. Francis de Sales, Southwest India Province. He is currently the rector of Tejas Vidyapitha, the MSFS Theologate in Kengeri, Bangalore. Father Binu has been a priest for 22 years, and during that period, he has worked as an associate pastor, provincial secretary, assistant novice master, hospital chaplain, formator, provincial councillor, faculty member in the college, and psychotherapist. Father Binu holds a master's in psychology and a master's in Christian studies from Madras University. He received his doctorate in family therapy from St. Louis University in USA. He completed his postdoctorate in child trauma from the University of Missouri, USA. Father Binu has an advanced training in psychoanalytic psychotherapy from St. Louis Psychoanalytic Institute, USA. He also completed his clinical pastoral education at the Alexian Brothers Medical Center in Chicago. As a psychotherapist, Father Binu has extensive experience in working with children, adolescents, and adults, providing trauma treatments, family therapy, couples therapy, and other types of psychotherapy. Father Binu has authored 3 books: The Ascent in 2015, I Am Who I Am in 2017, and Strangers to Spouses in 2017. Besides teaching and doing psychotherapy, Father Binu conducts retreats, seminars, and various training programs for priests and religious, medical and mental health professionals, educators, and other groups and leaders in the community. He is very human and a person for others. As a formator, counselor, rector, and psychologist, he has helped many persons. We are privileged to have such an eminent person to talk to us today on dynamic relationship with Jesus Christ. On behalf of Sister Fatima Kattar, our provincial, and all the sisters who are gathered here, I extend a very warm welcome to you, Father Binu. Dear sisters, your presence here make this event a reality. On behalf of our commission members, I extend a hearty welcome to each one of you. Have a grace-filled day. Over to Father Binu.
Okay, so just for me to familiarize myself, now these are sisters from Madurai province?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from different communities.
Yes.
So where are you gathering?
We are in Nagarkoil.
And that is your provincial house or?
No, in Nagarkoil we have a college community as well as a common house of formation. We have gathered in the common house of formation.
Okay. Just for me to get an idea, I see the faces, most of them, but just for me to get an idea, these sisters are all working as different, I mean like the school, in the formation house,
yeah,
or all kinds of ministries.
All kinds of ministries, and these are sisters who have come together profession-wise. That means they novitiate companions. So yeah.
Okay.
Nearly 10 groups are there.
Yeah. And this is, okay, how many years professed?
Exactly, I don't know, but I think all celebrated the Silver Jubilee.
Ah, okay, Silver Jubilearians. Okay.
No, they finished. All of them
They
have celebrated the Silver Jubilee.
finished the Silver Jubilee. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, very good. Anyway, very happy to be here this morning. I know I'm looking at you. You are looking at the screen. So I hope you can all hear me. You can see me.
yeah. Yes, we can see
Uh,
you.
yes, I am in Bangalore. So greetings to all of you from Bangalore,
Thank you for that.
the garden city, but it is no more garden city. It is a concrete city. So a lot of things have changed in the city now.
Yeah.
So Sister Pushpam asked me to just share some of my reflections or thoughts on the dynamic relationship with Jesus. The word dynamic itself is a beautiful word, because we know dynamic means we are not static, we are not stuck. It's a very active process. Somebody who is dynamic, means very active and energetic, and that person also becomes an inspiration for many people. So a dynamic relationship with Jesus. So definitely such a person is going to make a difference in the life of other people. Okay? So we are going to reflect on that. Now, to begin with, let me use a metaphor. I believe all of you, after you washed this morning, you looked at the mirror. I hope you all looked at the mirror, right? Or you looked into the mirror. Is there somebody who didn't look into the mirror? Maybe some are, but usually we all look in the mirror after a shower or after washing. And we know why we look into the mirror. We look into the mirror to make sure that we are looking good. Isn't it? All of us want to look good. And that is very important. Looking good is very important for our self-esteem. It is important for us to present ourselves to others in a decent way. So we look into the mirror to see how we look on the face, or maybe our dress, or the way we look overall. That's why we look in the mirror, to make sure that we are looking good. Now, when we look in the mirror, it is sometimes possible that we may find some dirt on our face, or some scar, or some dry skin, or something, popping out like that. There may be something. And what do when we find that? We try to scratch it and we try to scrub it. And even if we had a shower, we will try to wash our face once again. And we not only scratch and scrub and wash the face, but we also will try to maybe apply something. Maybe some of us will apply some cream, and some of you may be applying some powder. These days powder is not very common. There are many other kinds of cosmetics available. So we apply something. And why do we apply? To make these things disappear. The scar and the spots and the dry area and all of that. To make it disappear, so that we look good, or to hide it. And if it's a dress, then we try to put our dress properly, or if it is crumbled, we try to iron it once again, and all of that we will do. So all of these things that we apply on the face, or we try to hide or make things disappear, what do we call? We call it makeup, isn't it? All that together we call makeup. I don't know, sisters, probably many of you don't use too much of makeup. But generally many people use a lot of makeup. Ladies in general, they use a lot of makeups using cosmetics. They use all kinds of creams, they all use all kinds of lipsticks and all kinds of stuff, and all kinds of things they put. These are all put together as makeup. Now that phrase itself, makeup, communicates what it is. It is making up for what is lacking. It is making up for what is missing. So something helps us to make up for what is missing or what is lacking, so that we are looking good again. So this is very important for all of us, that we all need to look good, and there is nothing bad about that, nothing wrong about that, you know. And sister said all of you have finished your jubilee. So jubilarians, once they pass that age, you know, you also will probably find some gray hair growing on your head, isn't it? And some people are concerned about that. I don't know, maybe many of you don't. You are not concerned about that, but especially men. Men are very concerned about that. When they find some gray hair, it bothers them. I don't say everybody, but many of them. So what do? They use another kind of makeup called dye. They dye their hair to make it look black or dark. But interestingly, actually what is happening is they are really dying. That means they are getting old. But they use a dye to look young. So even those who are dying want to look young. So they use a dye. So the word itself is very interesting. Although the spelling is different, the actual fact is they are dying, or we are all dying. But we don't want dye, so we use a dye to look young. So that for men, that is one kind of makeup. They try to make up for what is missing or what is lacking and all of that. Again, I don't say it is bad. Of course, I don't use it. And if you can see, I don't have too much of hair, so I don't need to worry too much about it. But there are some men who would like to use dye. Women use different other stuff to make up. So we are making up for something that is lacking or something that is missing or something that we are not very happy about. Again, as I said, nothing wrong about that. If it helps, if it builds up our good feelings about ourselves, self-esteem. None of us wants to look dirty or bad. Everybody wants to look good. External appearance is very important for everybody. Nobody wants to go about looking shabby. But you know, that is all the external stuff. What is external about us? The outward appearance. Now the question is, what is the mirror that we can use to see what is internal? You know, the mirror, the external mirror, is a very good object. It helps us. It's a nice tool. It shows us how we are or how we look. The mirror usually does not lie. It shows as it is. The mirror is very objective. But that is only about the external. How about the internal self? How do we see what is going on within ourselves? What is the mirror that we can use? You know, so maybe that is one thing that we can think about. This image or this metaphor we can think about when we think of this theme, dynamic relationship with Jesus. Now, to see our internal self, the internal beauty, whether we are really looking good, the best mirror for us, we know, is Jesus. Jesus is a mirror. So we look at Jesus, look at the life of Jesus, look at the values of Jesus, look at the teachings of Jesus, and see in relationship with Jesus, how are we doing? How is our life? You know, I believe you are all familiar with the Saint Francis de Sales. I believe you follow both Salesian and Ignatian spirituality. You are influenced by the spirituality of Francis de Sales and the spirituality of Saint Ignatius of Loyola. Of course, I love both of them. I don't have any issue with Loyola, but I believe as Holy Cross Sisters, founded by the same founder, our founder, Peter Mamiya, I hope you have a little more love for Francis de Sales than Ignatius of Loyola. I don't know. I wish, because I'm a little partial to Francis de Sales. Although both are saints and I love both of them, I love Francis de Sales a little more. And I wish the Holy Cross sisters also love Francis de Sales as we all do. So anyway, I believe you are familiar with what Francis de Sales says about that. You know, in his letters to the spiritual directees, in most of them, he used to write on the top of the letter or at the end of the letter, live Jesus. A simple phrase, live Jesus. And you can see that in his spiritual classics, the Introduction to the Devout Life, and in the Treatise on the Love of God, he uses the same phrase, live Jesus. So to see how we are doing internally, this is one maxim we can use, or this is a test we can use. Are we living Jesus? You know, what Francis de Sales would mean by saying live Jesus means, when you look at Jesus, do you see yourself reflecting Jesus in your life? Your words, your actions, your thoughts, your behaviors, your interaction with the people, your ministry involvement, your love for the Lord, your commitment, all of this in relationship with Jesus, how do you see yourself? Are you living Jesus in your life? That means making Jesus your own completely. So this is the internal mirror that is given to us, Jesus himself. So if we really want to know if we look beautiful internally, if we are okay internally, if our life is okay internally, Jesus is the best mirror. Look at Jesus and he will show us how we look. But Jesus is not the only mirror. Of course, we have, as religious, we have the religious ideals. You know, as religious people, we have made a commitment. So we have especially the 3 vows, the 3 commitments we make, 3 vows we take. So if we really want to see how we are doing internally, it is important to look at those 3 vows. You know, those are the mirrors. You know, every now and then I need to look at, you know, I have made this commitment, vow of obedience, for example. Now, how am I doing with that? Nobody forced me. Nobody asked me to do it. I made it a commitment for myself. I vowed. It is a vow. I vowed to God. So how am I doing with that? In the vow of obedience or poverty. And I don't think, sisters, you have too much of issue with that. Poverty. Most of you sisters, I believe, live a very simple life. Whereas compared to us fathers, many of us probably may not be in the same line. Many of us have maybe some struggle with the vow of poverty. Sisters, I believe, generally live a very simple life. But even then, it is good to take a little time to ask, you know, how am I doing with this commitment I have made? I have made this commitment. How am I doing? In my spending or in my desires, in my use of materials, all of that. And then vow of chastity, celibacy. You know, I had many choices. I had many options in life. Nobody forced me. I hope nobody forced. But this commitment I took upon myself, I decided to give my life entirely to the Lord. But have I given myself entirely to the Lord? So, you know, these 3 evangelical vows, evangelical counsels we call, they are another mirror for us to see how we are looking internally. So maybe I would invite all of you sisters maybe to just take some time to think about that. You know, how do you see yourself when you look into these mirrors? External mirror, we know how we look. But internal mirror, looking at Jesus, looking at our religious ideals,
You can, of course, look at your founders, Claudine Echenier, how she lived and what she taught. That is a mirror given to you. We have Mother Mary looking at her life. She's a mirror given to us. So looking at Mother Mary, who is another model for us, and looking at our life, how we are doing. Looking at Francis de Sales, Saint Francis de Sales, looking at his life and our life. So these are all various mirrors. And then we have the scripture. Every day we listen to the scripture. In the Mass, outside of the Mass, God speaks to us in so many different ways in the scripture. That is another mirror. So every time we listen to the scripture, that is a test for us. How am I doing? God is saying something to me through this word. So maybe this is something that we could take some time to think about that. If you want really look at your relationship with Jesus. Am I really dynamic? Am I really active, energetic, full of vibrancy in my relationship with Jesus? Now, I would call your attention to another story or another passage from the Bible. Right at the beginning, Genesis, after Adam and Eve committed sin, they did something. And then God came looking for them. And when God came looking for them, he asked them a question. And you know what the question was? Where are you? Where are you? So that is a question that God asks all of us, all the time. So sisters, today maybe that is one question that we need to ask ourselves. Where are you? Now Adam and Eve, where were they? It is not about the physical place. Physically we know where they were. They were in the garden. But actually, emotionally, internally, where were they? They were hiding. They were feeling naked, or they were feeling ashamed. They were feeling guilty. Maybe they were angry. Maybe they were upset. All of that. They were also blaming each other. She did this. The serpent did this. They started blaming each other. And then they said, we are afraid. We were hiding because we were afraid. So they were afraid. So emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, where were they? They were not in a very good situation. So, sisters, I don't know where you are. Now I see you. You are in this room gathered. That I know. But internally, where are you? I don't know. Sister Pushpam, I don't think she knows where you are. Only you know where you are. But it is important to ask that question, where are you? The reason is, wherever you may be, God comes in search of us. God comes in search of you. Wherever you may be. God does not leave us in that state. He is looking for us. He comes in search of us. So, where are you spiritually at this point in your life? I don't know, some of you have completed 25 years. Some of you have completed maybe 30 years as a religious. Spiritually, where are you in your relationship with God? Adam and Eve, they were wonderful people in the beginning. They had a very nice relationship with God. But then things changed. Gradually, things changed. During novitiate, they were very good. During aspirants and postulants in novitiate and first profession, Adam and Eve were wonderful people. After final profession, they were still good. But by Jubilee time, I think things changed. Maybe by the time of Jubilee, some things started distracting them. Or by the time of perpetual profession, I don't know. So some time in their life, Adam and Eve started getting distracted, disoriented. They started getting deviated. So it can happen to any one of us. It doesn't matter where we are, whether we have completed Jubilee or whether we have completed 30 years or 35 years, 40 years, it doesn't matter. It can happen to anybody. If it happened to Adam and Eve, who were the best friends of God, it can happen to anybody. They walked with God. If it happened to them, it can happen to us. Judas Iscariot, he walked with Jesus. He lived with Jesus. He spoke to Jesus. He spent his time with Jesus. But if it happened to him, it can happen to anybody. So none of us is insulated from such distractions or deviations. So where are you at this point in your life, in your relationship with God, with Jesus? Has anything distracted you? Has anything deviated you? Has anything come as a stumbling block? Another image that Saint Francis de Sales uses is, you are very familiar with that, I believe. Francis de Sales uses the image of two pieces of magnet. What is the nature of magnet? The nature is to attract, to come together. That is the nature of magnet. So you keep two pieces of magnet close to each other. They have a natural attraction. They want to come together. That is in their nature. But in between those two pieces of magnet, you keep a diamond, a beautiful diamond. What happens to the magnet? The diamond will block the attraction. The magnets cannot come together anymore because the diamond is blocking the attraction. Because diamond does not allow these magnets to come together. Now, Francis de Sales would say there is a natural attraction that we have with God because we are his children. Like your father and mother and children. There is a natural connection. All of you know that. However close you may be to many other people, with your father and mother, with your family members, there's a natural connection. Now, of course, because of some reasons, some of you may not have a very good connection. That is possible. But generally, people have a natural connection with the mother. When a child is afraid or scared, who is the first person the child will run to? The child will run to the mother or the father, because that is the safest place the child knows. There's a natural connection. The child will always come home or always want to come home. I'm talking about a normal family, not a family that is, disunited or family that is broken. A normal family, there's a natural connection between parents and children. So Francis de Sales would use that same image and he would say, there's a natural connection between us and God. We are his children. But sometimes some diamonds come in between us and God. Some diamonds. For Adam and Eve, it came in the form of a fruit, an apple. People say apple. I don't know whether it is apple or some other fruit. Maybe it was some other fruit. But usually people say apple. It's not necessarily apple, but a fruit. It is presented as a fruit. Now, Francis de Sales would use it as a diamond. Now, in these 25, 30 years in your life as a religious, or 35 years, 40 years, has any diamond, any fruit come in between you and God? That diamond can be anything. Diamond can be some relationships. Diamond can be some attachment to something. Diamond can be even some of our own personal behaviors. For example, I am so hateful, unforgiving because of something happened, that this is not allowing me to come close to God or be connected with God, because this hatred is there. Lack of forgiveness. I'm not able to forgive. this negative experience I have from my childhood or in my convent days or in my seminary days, whatever. So something is holding me back from God. I'm not able to let go. This is keeping me. So this diamond can be anything. For many people, it is money, wealth. Again, for sisters, I don't think it's a big thing. It's a big problem. But for some people, even for fathers, for some of us, sometimes money can be a big diamond. We are so much attached to money. Or for some people, it may be position, power. They are never satisfied with, they want more and more and more power and more position. So they become superior, but not enough. They want to become counselor, but that's not enough. They want to become provincial. Then not enough. Then they want to become superior general. But after that, unfortunately, there is nothing more. Now what to do? So people, but there are some people who are never satisfied with that power. They want more and more and more of that power. Now that power may be also because of this desire for control. That may be another reason. So power and control can go together. Money also may be because of desire for control. Those who have money, we know that what is happening in our country, in India. Money can buy people, isn't it? Governments change. In Tamil Nadu also it may be happening. You buy MLAs and MPs giving money. Overnight, governments change because money plays a big role. Money has power. But it is not only in the government. Sometimes in the religious institutions also it happens. Some people will go and to give money to somebody and they will become bishop. That also happens. Or they can give money to somebody, they can become provincial. Or they can become something. So all of these are happening. What happens in the Garden of Eden happens anywhere. Garden of Eden is a situation for anybody. So the question is, how is my Garden of Eden? What is the apple or what is a fruit that I am attracted to? Is there a fruit? Again, I'm not saying that all of you have something like that, but if there is there a diamond that has distracted you or taken you away from that attraction to God? So the question, where are you? Maybe it is good to ask. But it is not only the spiritual aspect, but as a religious, also in your community life. One of the specific characteristics about our life as a religious is community life. We are not meant to live as isolated individuals. We are the continuation of that community of disciples that Jesus started. He gathered together a group of people, 12 men. But then, of course, he had 72 other disciples. He gathered it together, the disciples. And then we have the early church, this community aspect. So today, the religious communities are supposed to show to the world, this is how we are meant to live. We are a family. We have to be brothers and sisters, united with each other. We are not isolated people. So the question is, where are you in your relationship with each other? Is there something that is not helping you to feel comfortable with others? So your interpersonal relationship. There are sometimes sisters or fathers who like to isolate themselves because of something that happened. Or they are in their own world. They want to be in their own world. But that is not how we are meant to be. In the Garden of Eden, God placed Adam and Eve together. Jesus brought all these disciples together. The early church, they came together. Religious communities, the word community itself is there. Religious communities. We are meant to be a community. We have plenty of problems in the world. We know that. Divisions and disunity and people fighting with each other, hating each other on the caste, group, language, rights. This morning I was reading a news item. There's a big fight going on in Kerala in the Syro Malabar Church between two groups. What is the fight? The fight based on right. the same right, but based on how to celebrate Mass. Some people want to face the people while celebrating Mass full time. Some people want to face the people half time and face the sanctuary half time. And they are fighting with each other. And today, in the news, it is out in the open before the world. And they blocked the archbishop and sent him back, and he could not enter the church. They locked the gate, and the other group broke the gate and forcefully entered and celebrated Mass. But the question is, if we really think about it, what is Mass? What are they doing? They are doing something totally against what they are celebrating. Jesus broke himself to unite people. And here, they are breaking everybody. But it is not only there, it is everywhere. We know that. So this unity, this division based on religion or caste or right or language, any of that, we see that all over. So in such a context, God is inviting the religious communities to promote a sense of unity. So the question for all of us, all of you to ask is, where are you in your interpersonal relationship, in your community life? As a congregation. So you have beautiful ideals, Sisters of the Cross of Shavano. But how are you doing as a congregation, as a province? So it is good to take some time to ask that question. Now, any meetings when we have, or any conference, or even provincial chapters or retreats, what do we do when we come together for all of this? There are two things usually we do. One is we make an assessment. What is happening? Make an assessment. You get a picture of what is going on. But we don't stop with assessment. We also go into an action plan. We want to do something. So there may be some things that we think are not working. So we want to make an action plan so that we can do better. So as Sisters of the Cross of Shavano, individually and as a community, as a congregation, maybe this is a time to make an assessment, personally and as a congregation. How are you doing? Where are you in this journey of religious life? So, I hope you are familiar with Second Vatican Council. Second Vatican Council was a very big change in the Catholic Church. And you know who called the council? Pope John the 23rd, or Saint John the 23rd. Now, when he opened the council, or when he started the council, he used a phrase that has become very famous. I hope you remember. He called the council to open the windows. To open the windows of the church to let in some fresh air. Now, I don't know if your hall there is very stuffy and uncomfortable. Suppose all the windows are closed and all the doors are closed there, and if there is no air conditioning, you know what happens? It will become very stuffy. And you will get a little suffocated because the oxygen supply may not be there much. And so many bodies are sitting there, and everybody is breathing out the carbon dioxide. And so there is a lot of carbon dioxide inside instead of oxygen. So to get more oxygen, what do? Either you have to have an air conditioner, or you need to open the window and the doors open so that some fresh air can get in. I think some sisters are already talking about it. Open the windows. So, I'm sorry, you have an AC?
Yeah.
Ah, wonderful. So I hope you are all comfortable. So Pope Francis, Pope John the 23rd said, let us open the windows to let in some fresh air into the church. Now why? Because he felt that the church was getting suffocated with many things. People were feeling suffocated. He needed, or he felt that the church needed a fresh air, a new life. And that's exactly what we all try to do in a meeting, in a conference, in a chapter, in a retreat. That is what always we try to do. We try to let in some fresh air. Last week I was in Calcutta. I just came back last night. We had an all India rectors meeting. All the rectors of the major seminaries in India from all the dioceses and congregations. Now there are some 100 plus rectors, but only some 75 of us came. It was a very nice meeting, some 4 days meeting. We had the Cardinal Oswald Gracious from Mumbai, and then we had 2 other bishops, and then all these rectors. Now, why did we gather? It is again to assess how things are going in the seminary formation. How are we doing? Now, many of us could have said, oh, we are doing wonderfully well, everything is going fine, we are the best rectors, ours is the best seminary. We could have said that, and sometimes we do. But at the same time, every now and then we take some time to gather together to assess what is going on. How are we doing? Are we responding to the times? Are we relevant and are we effective? Are we forming our seminarians properly? So we took some time to reflect, to discuss, to listen to each other. So this is what John the 23rd wanted to do, to let in some fresh air. Now Pope Francis has brought in something new, and you know what it is, isn't it? He has brought a word that has become very famous, synodality. Now wherever you go, you hear this word, synodality. Synodality has become a big catch word. Now what is this synodality that he is talking about? Pope Francis also is feeling, or he felt, that the church needed some sort of assessment. What is going on in our church? Now church, when he says, it includes all of us, religious congregations also. So what is going on? And so he is focusing on 3 themes: communion, participation, and mission. Communion. We are meant to be a community, not isolated people. We are meant to travel together, journey together as a family, as a community, following the Trinitarian model. So are we a community? So he is asking us to assess. So that would come to you, Holy Cross sisters. Are you discerning God's will as a community? In today's world, your relevance, your effectiveness, are you discerning together as a community? Then participation. So is everybody brought together? Now, of course, everybody cannot play the same role. People have different roles in your community also. Everybody cannot be superiors. Then we'll have problem. There can be only one superior, and then the members. Everybody cannot be provincials, isn't it? One provincial. So it is not about the roles that we play, but are we all traveling together, participating in this discernment process? Or is it all one person business, or one man show, or one person show? Are we participating in this decision-making process, in this life together? I would use an example. In a family, in a family, there are all kinds of children, isn't it? Some children are healthy. There may be some children who are maybe a little physically challenged. Everybody may not be the same. There may be some children also who may be mentally a little bit challenged. But as a family, they have to go together. They cannot say, oh, okay, this child has some physical problem, so let us throw him on the street. No, they don't do that. Then it is not a family anymore. Or because this child has some mental health issues, let's throw that child outside. No. Or because this person has some health issues, some other health issues, let us throw him out or throw her out. No. Families don't do that. Families take everybody together. So that is what Pope Francis is talking about. Participation and communion. We are all different. Some of us may be more talented, some of us may not be so talented. Some of us may be playing this role, some of us may be playing the other role. But are we all journeying together? Are we participating in our life together? And then the third topic he talks about is a mission. We all have a mission. We are not here for ourselves. We have a mission. Are we journeying together with that sense of mission? Or are we all just taking care of ourselves? We have a larger mission. So Pope Francis is again trying to bring this fresh air into the life of the church. So the same thing we are trying to do. As a community, as individuals, sisters, you are trying to do the same thing, to bring in a fresh air. So in that context of the Second Vatican Council, a word was used along with this fresh air, opening the windows, an Italian word. The word is aggiornamento. I hope you have heard that. Aggiornamento. Aggiornamento means up-to-date renewal. Up-to-date renewal. That means according to the times now, are we able to renew our life? Or are we working with some old systems, old ideas? Are we willing to change our thoughts and ideas? So, all of us need an aggiornamento. All of us need to open the windows of our life so that some fresh air can come in. I'm not, saying we are all in a very idealistic world. There may be some of us who are not willing to open the window. Some of us like to stay inside without opening the window. And so it is an invitation for us. Some of us become so comfortable with the stuffy air inside that we don't think a fresh air is needed. That is there. But then the problem is when it becomes too much, we begin to die. We will not be dynamic anymore. We will be static, stagnated. That means we get stuck. So, I would like to just maybe share a few things for you to think about. Now, sisters, having given that as a context, that we all need a fresh air, we need to open our windows, we need to ask ourselves this question, where are you? Spiritually, emotionally, interpersonally, and all of that. One of the things that I would like all of us to think about is take a little time to appreciate your life and your vocation. 25 years, 30 years is not anything small. You have given yourself as a gift to the Lord. And all of you sisters, if I had a chance to ask you your personal story of your religious life, I'm sure all of you have something beautiful to say about your life. You have gifted yourself to God all these years, and it's a great gift you have made yourself to. You have given yourself to the people of God. And so, that story in the Bible when the three servants were given the talents, and two of them came back to the master and said, Master, we did so much. We multiplied, we made this. The first one said, and the second one said, and what did the master say? Master said, well done, good and faithful servant. So sisters, that's what I think God says to all of you today. Well done, sisters, good and faithful. You have been good in so many ways. You have been faithful in little things. I will entrust you with the greater things, the master said. All of you sisters, if you look at your life, have you done anything good so far? At least one thing? I believe you have. You all have done something good. So, God says to all of you, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in little things. So, when you get some time, give yourself a pat on your back. Because God appreciates what is good. He sees what is done. And so it is not simply for, saying, oh, everything is bad, nothing has worked. No, none of that. God sees all the good that has happened in these years of your life as a religious. So maybe it is good to take some time, a moment of appreciation and thinking of yourself, you have been a great blessing. I don't know your stories, but in 25 years, do you have any idea how many people you have met and how many people you have served? Thousands of them. You probably don't remember those people, but you made a difference in their life. You made a difference because you are different. You are different not in your looks. You are different not in your beauty or any of that. No, not because of that. You are different because you are a religious. Something that many other people cannot do, you are able to do because you are religious. Because you are different and you have chosen to be different, you have made a difference. So, please give yourself a pat on your back when you have time, or somebody else also can pat on your back. So that's one thing that I would like all of us, all of you to take some time to think about. And also, don't stop with that. Remember what the master said to the servants? You have been faithful in little things, I will give you greater things. So your job is not done. So don't try to retire. There's no retirement for us. I usually say I have a book that I have published. I have some 2-3 books I have published, but I have a book that I have published, I Am Who I Am. Now, all these books were published in the United States, but it's also available in India, in Bangalore, through St. Peter's Theological Publication of India. They have also published this. Now, in this book, I talk about a little bit about heaven and hell and all that. So, I said there is no retirement in heaven. When people die, usually on the tombstone, what do they say? Rest in peace. But actually, if you really look at, in heaven, there is no resting. No resting. Why? Because God is busy. And if God is busy, you better be busy with Him. So if all of you are planning to go to heaven to rest in peace, don't think about that. Okay? You are not going to rest in peace. You are going to be busy with the Lord for the salvation of the world. If God is busy all the time for the salvation of the world, and if you are going to be with God, you better be ready to be busy with Him. Of course, what I mean by rest is not what we usually think about. So, simply what I mean is, you have been a great blessing, and I hope you will continue to be a blessing. Greater responsibilities will be given to you. Means your work is not done. And for that, it doesn't matter what age you are in. Age doesn't matter. We know how old Abraham was. He was 99 years old. But God had a work for him. And we know the story of our Holy Father now, Pope Francis. A good example. He was a cardinal and he was hoping to retire in Buenos Aires in Argentina. And then comes this new position, new call to be the Pope. So he has not retired yet. He's still going. So there is no retirement for us in being a blessing. Until we breathe our last breath, we want to continue to be a blessing. So sisters, I hope you will continue to be a blessing, and you have been a great gift to the Lord and to God's people. And it is also good to take some time to express our gratitude, to be grateful. So to take a moment of gratitude, 25 years, 30 years, 35 years. It's a great blessing given to us. You have been a blessing, but we have been also blessed. It's a blessing given to us. with all the struggles, if I ask all of you sisters, did you ever have any struggles in your life? I believe all of you will have something to say. But with all the struggles and problems you faced in your life, you came this far. You came this far, and that has been a great gift. You made it, and you received this beautiful gift of the vocation of religious life. This is not given to everybody, we know that. And I don't know, all of you, when you joined the convent, how many were with you in your batch, in your first year? How many joined with you? And by the time of your final profession, how many were left? Maybe very few. So it is not given to everybody. Everybody is not chosen for this. There must have been so many reasons why they left or why they were asked to go. But the simple fact is, they were not chosen, or they are not there. You are specially chosen. It's a special gift given to us, and you have made it this far. And God has been with you all these years. With all the problems or struggles, God has been with you all these years. And there have been many, many people who helped you to come this far. We know we don't do anything by ourselves. There are thousands and thousands of people who help us. None of us came to this world by ourselves. We know that, unless some of you fell down from the sky or you sprouted from the ground. I don't think we did. None of us sprouted from the ground or came from the sky. We all came from our families, our parents, many, many people who have been part of our life. Because of many people, we are here. So a moment of gratitude for those people. Not only God helping us, but a lot of people helping us. Beautiful memories we have. So gratitude for those memories. Maybe it is good to take some time to think about them, to write them down. Not only the bad stuff, but the good stuff that is there, part of your life. And then, along with that, we are a blessing, we are happy about it, we are gifted, and we are blessed, and we are grateful for that. But we also take a moment to evaluate, how are we doing? Where am I at this point in my life? Have I become like Adam and Eve, distracted or deviated? And we know what was the first sin? What was the sin of Adam and Eve? Disobedience, isn't it? And actually very, very interesting to understand that concept. Obedience comes from the Latin word, obedire. Obedire. Now, obedire means listen. Listen. So, obedience means to listen. Now, what happened to Adam and Eve? Instead of listening to God, they started listening to other voices. The voice of the serpent. They started listening to each other's voice instead of listening to God's voice. Or they started listening to their own voice. So obedience is very interesting. So this is what Pope Francis also is asking us in this synodality. Listen to each other, he says. Listen. Why we need to listen to each other? Why we need to listen to God? Because there are all kinds of noises and voices around us. And sometimes that may not be God's voice. So, have we become like Adam and Eve sometimes? Do we listen to God's voice or do we listen to other voices? Sometimes I know my voice is bigger than God's voice. So sometimes I listen to my voice. That means I become self-centered. What I want. We pray that prayer, Our Father, let your will be done, let your kingdom come. But most of the time I know it is my will that I want to be done. I go to God with a list and say, this is my list, you complete this. And then we will go to the next one. Isn't it? So, whose kingdom are we building? Sometimes we build our kingdom. Whose will are we seeking? Our will. That means we are listening to our own voice. Or sometimes we listen to other voices. There are all kinds of other voices coming to us these days. The world has so much of noise and voice these days. For example, the new trends in the world, the media and the culture, the selfie culture. These days what do we see? How do people take photos these days? Earlier we used to take photo like this. We had a camera and we would ask somebody, can you please take a photo? And they take a photo. And nowadays what we do? We don't need anybody. We take like this, isn't it? Selfie. That means I don't need anybody. I can manage by myself. It's a selfie culture we have grown into. So this is a voice in the world. You focus on yourself, a selfie culture. Or people get addicted to all kinds of things these days. Social media. Social media has so much of voice and noise coming to us. So Facebook or Instagram, I don't know what you are all using. Even now, see what we are doing, this conference itself is through some social media, isn't it? It's beautiful, it's helping us. But sometimes social media can be a big noise, distracting us from the voice of God. It can distract us and deviate us. So Facebook is there, Instagram or Twitter is there, WhatsApp is there, all kinds of things are there. So many of these things are good, but sometimes they can also become a different voice, not the voice of God. They can distract us, they can deviate us. So have we moved away from God like Adam and Eve? Have we become disobedient? That means not really listening to God's voice. Are we following our own voice? Sometimes it can happen. Of course, in our religious communities, this is taken as vow of obedience. Now, strictly speaking, vow of obedience means what? We listen to God's voice. And God's voice comes to us, of course. We think our superiors, they are the representatives of God's voice. But it is not only, if you really understand the spirituality of Francis de Sales, he says when it comes to obedience, it is not only to the superiors you have to obey or listen to. You have to also obey your equals, because God speaks to you through them. You have to obey your subordinates. God speaks to you through them. Even the domestic staff. Sometimes we don't think about it. When we think of obedience, we think only about superiors. But the whole question is, are we listening to God's voice, or are we listening to our own voice? If we listen to our voice, then of course, we don't want to listen to anybody else. But we know the most common phrase about the prophets in the world, in the Old Testament we hear is, what did the prophets always say? Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. That was the attitude of the prophets. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Now, in our case, sometimes it can be the opposite. Listen, Lord, your master is talking. Or I am talking, isn't it? Sometimes it can happen that way. Many of us, listen, Lord, I am talking. But it's the other way, supposed to be. Speak, Lord, your servant is listening. So just maybe a moment of evaluation and see if that diamond has come between us and God. What is a diamond? Is it my rebelliousness? Is it my pride? Is it my arrogance? Is it my self-centeredness? For Adam and Eve, all these were there. They started, what was the temptation for Adam and Eve? What did the serpent say? You can become like a God. You can become like a God. Anytime when we try to become like a God, we are in problem. Sisters, if some of you try to become like a God, that's a warning signal. So there will be a lot of people. There will be a lot of voice coming to us saying, you can become like a God. Anytime when we forget who we are and we want to become like God, then we have problem. So that is one evaluation we want to do. Another thing that I would like to focus on is, there is a psychologist named Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow speaks about the human needs. I don't know if you have heard about him. He speaks about the hierarchy of needs. That's a big theory. Now he says, there are two levels of needs that we have. Basic needs and the higher needs. The basic needs, what he says is, we all want to have basic needs like food, shelter, clothing, that everybody needs. We cannot survive without that. We don't need too much, but we need it. If we don't have enough food, we will die. If we don't have enough clothing or shelter, we will die. We will not survive. But it is not only the food and clothing and all that. We also have some esteem needs. We need to be esteemed. We need to feel good, self-confidence and all of that. Without that also we cannot live. We need to feel that we are able to do and we are able to do, have good life and people appreciate us. That esteem needs are there. And then, we also want to have belonging. We want to belong to family. We want to feel that we are loved, that we belong somewhere, because nobody can live isolated. So all these things together, he puts as a basic needs, So we need food, we need shelter, we need clothing, we need esteem, self-confidence, we need to belong to somebody, we need to belong somewhere. All of these are basic needs. But then he says, that is not the only need. We have also something, a higher need, and he calls it self-actualization need. Self-actualization. What he means is, by self-actualization, bringing the best out of yourself. So if you are an artist, you become the best artist. If you are a poet, you become the best poet. If you're a musician, you become the best musician. If you're a philosopher, you become the best philosopher. So whatever is in us, the qualities within us, actualize it. Self-actualization. That means bringing the best out of ourselves, reaching the highest potency that we have. So he speaks about that. Now, but Maslow says, without the basic needs, you cannot focus on the other one. Because if you're hungry and if you don't have enough food, how can you go for painting as an artist? Or how can you go for musician? You have to first eat. So basic needs have to be met for the higher needs. But he also says, some people, they are satisfied only with the basic needs. They don't focus on the higher needs. And they have plenty of the basic needs, food or shelter or whatever. So there are some people who are concerned only about that. And they are never satisfied with that. And in Indian philosophy or Indian spirituality, there is a word used for such people, Kumbhakarnas, isn't it? Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna means eat and sleep, enjoy. In the Western philosophy, there is a word for such people, Epicureans, Epicureanism. That means they just enjoy and, they are not concerned about anything higher. Basic things, plenty, just enjoy, keep enjoying. Nothing higher than that. Now, Abraham Maslow says, as human beings, we are meant to be something more than this. These basic things are okay for animals. Animals are like that. They eat and sleep. But human beings are something more than that. So we should not be simply satisfied with these basic needs. We should bring the best out of ourselves. Self-actualization. So this is a theory that he gives. But then I would say, I have also a different thought, a little bit of different thought. It is not simply self-actualization. It is even self-transcendence. Going beyond ourselves. So it is not simply bringing the best out of ourselves, but going beyond ourselves, self-transcendence. And that is where, this phrase of Francis de Sales becomes important. Live Jesus. Or Saint Paul would say, it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So you reach a point where it is no more you, but it is God and God alone. You have given your life entirely to the Lord, and you want to give it fully. Every cell of your body, you want to give it to the Lord. That complete dedication and commitment. So, Abraham Maslow's theory is a good theory for us to think about. Are some of us concerned only about these basic things? What I can have today and what I can get today and what people can give me today? Or are we focusing on something higher? We are meant more than these basic things. We are not meant to be just like animals. We are meant to be more than that. Now there is an American nun, sister, Benedictine nun. Her name is John Chittister, Jon. It is pronounced as John Chittister, Chittister, Chittister. So this nun, she's a very prolific writer. She has spoken a lot and written a lot about spirituality. And so she has a beautiful saying in one of her books. She says, life is not simply about breathing. Life is not simply about breathing. It is about becoming more than what we are now. It is about becoming more than what we are now and being all that we can be. It is about becoming more than what we are and being all that we can be. So, sisters, I will share with you maybe just two more thoughts, then I will stop. I hope you are okay with that. If you are tired, just raise your hand and let me know. Otherwise, just two thoughts and then I will.
It's okay.
I'm sorry?
It's okay.
Okay, two thoughts, then I'm done. Okay. Now, one thing that all of us need to be very clear about when we make this assessment and we want to move into some action plan. Action plan, what I mean is some resolutions for renewal of life. So, clarity about our identity and purpose. Clarity about our identity and purpose. That's very important. Now, I am a priest. My identity is very clear. I am a priest, and I am not simply any priest. I am not a diocesan priest. I am a religious priest. So I had to be very clear about that. That means I am not a layman. I am a priest. And I am not a diocesan priest. I am a religious priest. And as a religious priest, I am not a Jesuit or a Franciscan or a Capuchin or any of that. I am an MSFS priest. Which means in my DNA, I should be very clear what it means to be an MSFS religious priest. I should be very clear. My identity has to be very clear. Same thing applies to you. You are sisters. You are not lay people. And you are not simply any sisters. You are Holy Cross of Shavanor sisters. You are not SMMI, or you are not some Dominican sisters, or you are not MSMHC sisters, or what are the other sisters? All kinds of sisters are there. You are not anything else. You are Holy Cross of Shavanor sisters. That means you have a unique identity. You have a unique charism. You have a unique vision for your life. You have a unique lifestyle. We have to be very clear about it. Otherwise, what happens is we will try to live like anybody else. And we are not supposed to. So if I am not very clear about my identity as a priest, I will try to live like a layman sometimes. But at the same time, I know I am not a layman. Or I will try to live like a diocesan priest. I am not a diocesan priest. I am a religious priest. Or I will try to look at these Jesuits or Franciscans and other people and say, oh, they are better. I'm not them. I'm an MSFS priest. I'm a Francilian. So, do some of us have a confused identity? That will cause problems. We need to be very clear about our identity. And then, I need to be also very clear about my purpose. What is my purpose? Purpose of my life. You know, if you are going by train, you should know where you're going. Otherwise, you'll have a problem. We have some interesting stories about some of our fathers who went by train and they ended up somewhere else because they were not very clear where they were going. So, if we get into a train, we should know where we are heading. The purpose. So, as a religious, what is my purpose? What is my destiny? So, I should be very clear about my identity, my purpose, and my destiny. I am not here for myself. I'm here for Him and Him alone. That has to be very clear. Usually the word that is used for, a phrase that is used for priest is alter Christus, another Christ. Now, of course, that is not for priest alone. I believe that is for all the religious. We are not here for ourselves. We are for Him. We are for our congregation. We are for our church. That we have to be very clear about. Otherwise, what happens is if we are not very clear about the purpose of our life, we will begin to bring our personal agenda. So the question is, whose agenda am I following? My agenda or the agenda of the church? The agenda of God or the agenda of the congregation? So whose agenda am I following? Now, the agenda of the church and the congregation cannot be different from the agenda of God. And my personal agenda should not be anything different from that. I should be very clear where I am going, what I am here for. You know, suppose when you go by train, you're going to Calcutta, but on the way you find some good stations and the station looks beautiful, and if you get down in that station and you wander around, what happens? You will never reach Calcutta. So on our journey, there may be so many stations that are very attractive. But we have to always remember our destination is Calcutta or whatever. We have to be very clear about that. So clarity about our identity, our purpose, our destiny. That's very important when we make this assessment. To be dynamic in our relationship with Jesus. That has to be very clear. I cannot give myself fully to Jesus if I'm not very clear about my identity, because I will try to do something else. I will bring in my personal agenda. So another thought I would like to leave with you, and then I will end, is mixed motivations. Mixed motivations. You know, in the Gospel of John, chapter 1, 35 to 39, we have a beautiful incident. John 1, 35, 39. The two disciples of John the Baptist come to Jesus. We know the story. You all know the story. And Jesus is asking them one question. You know what he's asking? What are you looking for? What are you looking for? So sisters, that's the same question. At this time in your life, what are you looking for? When you joined the convent, what were you looking for? And right now, after 25 years, 30 years, 35 years, what are you looking for? What is your motivation? Now, about the disciples, we know what they had. They had mixed motivations. Some of them wanted to become this or that. They wanted to be on the right. They wanted to be on the left. Some of them wanted to have money. Some of them wanted positions. They all were fighting with each other, who is the greatest. All kinds of things were there. They had different motivations when they came to Jesus. When we joined the seminary or convent, probably many of us had mixed motivations. I don't know. Or after joining convent, after first profession, or after final profession, or after jubilee, maybe motivations have changed. Some of those disciples, maybe the motivation changed after joining Jesus. What is our motivation? What are we looking for? All of us are like those disciples. We are human. So we can be also coming with or moving with mixed motivations. So once we are clear about what is motivating us, then our commitment to Jesus will become easier. And we will become very dynamic. So some of your superiors now, some of your, I don't know, is there provincial here with you? Provincial is here with you?
Yes.
Okay, so provincial is, okay, so the provincial is there. Some of your counselors?
Yeah.
Yes. So some counselors are there, superiors are there, principals are there. Many of you are holding some positions, maybe some nurses are there, doctors, I don't know. All of you. Doesn't matter what position you hold. What are you looking for? The question is relevant. And doesn't matter where you are. You may be in Madurai or Nagarkoil, I don't know. Which place did you say this is? Nagarkoil, okay. Or some other place. So place doesn't matter. The roles we play don't matter. Age doesn't matter. The question is relevant. What are you looking for? What are we looking for? Are we sometimes like those disciples? Some of them were fighting among themselves. Who is the greatest? They were fighting among themselves. One wanted to be on the right, one wanted to be a left. Home minister, finance minister. I want to be this one, I want to be that. Some of us are probably like that. So, looking at our life, all of you sisters, maybe all of you find yourself at different levels, and that's okay. That's okay. You know, this, when people drive these days, driving the car or bus or any of that, they use the navigation system, map. And some of these navigation system, they will talk to you. Audio is there. So you set the map, and it is called GPS, Global Positioning System, GPS. So it is connected with the satellite. So this global positioning system will guide you. You are using the map because you don't know how to get there. That's why you are using it. But it will talk to you. Now suppose you make a wrong turn or you take a wrong road. Do you ever hear the GPS telling you, why did you do that? Who told you to go this way? How can you do that? No, GPS does not do that. Usually what the GPS says is, when possible, make a U-turn. When possible, make a U-turn. Or it will say, recalculating. So what is the GPS doing? GPS is finding you where you are and picking you from there and then redirecting you. So that is the GPS we have, Jesus. He finds you where you are. I don't know where you are. Even your provincial may not know where you are. Sister Pushpam also may not know where you are. But he knows where you are. And he picks you up from where you are and he redirects you. He does not scream, he does not shout, he does not judge. He redirects you. So, our goal is to be a dynamic, active, energetic, fully enthusiastic disciple of the Lord. To have that relationship with Him. So, let us take some time to reflect about that, on that question, where are you? Let us ask also the question, what are we looking for? And in our journey of life, wonderful things have happened. You have been a great blessing. And we have been blessed so much. But it is always important to make an assessment. An assessment is done so that we can do better. Just like a car, after running for long, it has to be taken for servicing. Otherwise, it will break down or it will get stuck. So this is only a servicing that we are doing, a reflection that we are doing on our life so that we can keep moving in good speed without breaking down. So sisters, great joy for me to be with you.
A brother can understand his sisters better. Dear Father, you are a loving brother who was very much concerned about our self-esteem, our external appearance, and gently led us to look at our inner reality using the mirror Jesus, and to live Jesus and reflect Jesus in our way of life, with our sisters, in our ministries, and in our commitments. The question, internally, where are you, was challenging. Where are you spiritually? What are you looking for? Were soul-stirring questions. You invited us to make personal assessment and to have clarity about our identity, our purpose and destiny, and letting fresh air in our lives. You also touched the core of synodality. It was very comforting for us to know that God is pleased with us, with all our accomplishment that we have done till today, and touched the lives of many people. Thank you, Father, for sparing your precious time to be with us. You challenged us to break the diamond in us and restore our natural connections with God. In one word, you have rekindled in us the fire and passion that was ours when we made our first commitment. Once again, on behalf of all of us gathered here, a very big thank you, Father, for blessing us to be a blessing and to count our blessing and make difference in our lives. Thank you so much, Father.